All right, Real Estate Growth Forum, we are going to be talking about getting permission from your buyers and sellers in order to run your business more effectively and represent them at a better and higher level. So let's start with sellers, because this is something I've been doing for about 12 years now. And I think it's actually a game changer. I think it's something that would really benefit you, especially if you take a lot of listings or you intend to take a lot of listings in the future. So here's one of the problems I had as a listing agent, taking a lot of listings on. Someone would call me on the listing, they're out in front of it, and they'd say, "Hey Chase, I want to see this property." Well, the problem I have is I need to represent the seller. And you could probably argue that it's in the seller's best interest for me to show that property to as many people as possible. So I didn't want to show the property to someone who couldn't actually afford to buy it or wasn't going to work with me. So what I found was, okay, what would I want if I was in the seller's shoes? Do I want random people that can just at any point in time come into my house and I don't know anything about them? No, probably not. So I found out this really simple and easy way to get my sellers and myself in alignment. And it's very simple. I just say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I'm going to get people that are going to call me off of the websites, Zillow, Trulia, my website, social media. They're also going to be driving around in front of your house and they're going to want to see it. So when people want to see your home, do you care if they can afford to buy it or not? And of course, the seller's like, well, yeah, if they can't afford to buy my home, I don't want them to see it. And I'd say, okay, well, what if they have no intention of buying it? Or, maybe they need a 4-bedroom, you only have a 3-bedroom. Like, do you want me to make sure these people can not only afford to buy your home, but they actually have intentions to buy your home before I show it to them? And the sellers always would say, absolutely. I want to make sure they can afford to buy it. And they actually want to buy it before we pack our kids up and clean the house and get the dog and get out of there. So now that I have their permission, the buyer calls me. Now I can negotiate very, very, very direct, because I have the seller's permission that, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I really want to show you this home, but I promise my seller, they are actually require it, that you be qualified to purchase. So do you have a letter of loan commitment or proof of funds that you could buy this home? And now some buyers might just be like, hey, piss off, I'm not going to give you that. Whatever, that's their prerogative. But most buyers who are serious about purchasing real estate are happy to be like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I don't have a lender yet. Do you have one I can talk to? And say, absolutely, we can work through all that stuff. So when you have the seller's permission, you can actually negotiate with way more confidence and way more effectiveness, because now you're in alignment. And, oh, by the way, I'm also representing the seller at a higher level, because think about it. Do you want random people walking through your house who may have no intention or ability to buy it? Yeah, me either. Okay, so now let's go to the buyer side, because after this new NAR settlement, you now have to negotiate with your buyer to, what you're going to get paid. You have to get something in writing saying, this is what I'm going to get paid, and this is how I'm going to get paid. So what I would like you to consider is there's a possibility that your buyer does not want to pay the commission, right? Or they cannot afford to pay the commission outside of the closing, right? They need to roll it into the loan. So get your buyer's permission. Say, when you say, hey, I make X, and the buyer's like, well, I can't afford to pay X. And you say, hey, no problem. I'm going to do everything I can to get the seller to pay that. But in the event they won't, then you are responsible. And the buyer's like, hey, I still can't pay it. Okay. With your permission, what I'll do is I'll make sure the deal always includes that the seller's paying it. Is that fair? And they say, absolutely. Now, when I'm writing an offer and I'm negotiating with the seller, I can make it super clear, like, hey, listing agent, my client wants this to be included in the price because they don't have the ability to pay it on their own. So it has to be in there. And guys, you might be thinking like, well, this sounds weird, blah, 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 blah. Well, I can tell you, I've been doing this for 19 years. I've sold over 3,500 properties, and hundreds of those were buyers who couldn't afford to pay their own closing costs. Let's just throw a random number out there. Their closing costs were $10,000. So we asked the seller to pay $10,000. The seller says, I'm not going to lower the price $10,000. And so some listing agents would just counter back and say, hey, nope, the purchase price is X and we're reducing your closing costs. Well, that was a waste of time because I would have to counter back again saying, hey, add them to the price and leave them in there because my client can't buy without it. So the whole point is, if you're communicating effectively with the listing agent and you've got the buyer's permission to make sure they're included in the sale no matter what, now you're representing your buyer at a higher level and you're getting them what they want, and you have a much higher likelihood of actually getting your deal accepted. So what are some things you do to get your deals accepted? Let us know. Hope this is helpful for you, and thank you guys so much for being a part of the Real Estate Growth Forum.